This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company and Purdy Insurance. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Sunbury Motor Company and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Great to be with you on the show. On this Friday, we head into the weekend. Love it. Yeah. Let's get to the weekend. Let's have some fun. And boys, the weather going to get warm. Woo! We're going to bypass spring and go right to summer for a few days. Very nice. All right. Half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15, Hummel's Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory. With the all-important Sunbury Motors guarantee, they go over every vehicle. Terrific service department. That backs it up every step of the way. Quick lane inspections, routine, difficult. They handle it all at Sunbury Motors. 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors, Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And online at sunburymotors.com. Phillies won last night. Beat the Red Sox 3-1 up at Fenway. Took 2 out of 3 in the series. The Phillies have now won 5 consecutive series. So some things are falling into place. They're not hitting. Schwarber had a big hit last night. They're not hitting. In fact, to be honest with you, who in baseball's hitting? I mean, this is kind of an odd baseball year. I went through yesterday. Only 23 guys hitting over 300. Yet, I'll give you this a completely different example here. But college softball, the tournament's underway. College softball, by a wide margin, set a new record for home runs this year. I like a well-pitched game like anybody else. You know, because there's all sorts of different ways to win. But when there's consistently a lack of offense, oh, man, that is not exactly, that's not exactly exciting when it's a steady diet of low-scoring games. But let's see. This is what it's where it is right now. It's where it is. All right. I want to get to something right out of the gate that I think is interesting and something I've mentioned before on the show as a possibility. We're now starting to see it come to reality and to fruition. And that is what they're doing at Notre Dame right now. Because this is something that I think in college sports, this is concerning. Okay? This is concerning. And that is Notre Dame making cuts, financial cuts. in sports because that is where we are in sports right now, in college sports. I keep going through the money part over and over again. There's a reason I keep going over it because, again, it's important for you to know what we are seeing and what could happen. So this is Notre Dame, article on Yahoo Sports. There's no question they have upped their financial commitment for football. I mean, Marcus Freeman has talked about that. It was the fact that Notre Dame was doing an okay commitment that led to Brian Kelly seeking employment at LSU. And then when Marcus Freeman took over, they talked about it, and they put more money into it, and they did make the national championship game a year ago. They just missed out on the playoff this year. So they poured tens of millions of dollars into the football program. They're trying to keep pace with everybody else. On a recent episode of the Irish Illustrated Insider, it was revealed that 17 Notre Dame sports, 17, will have their budgets cut in future years. That includes reducing the number of scholarships. Now, in baseball, you are now allowed to have, I think it's 33 or 34 scholarships. Notre Dame is going to reduce to 10.2. There are only a few select programs at Notre Dame that will not see budget cuts. Obviously, one is football. Men's and women's basketball, volleyball, men's ice hockey, men's and women's soccer, and men's and women's lacrosse. Everybody else, here come the cuts. So they have, 26 sports at Notre Dame? 17 are going to see cuts. Notre Dame's baseball program is going to be one of them. We talked about 10.2 scholarships. That's it. They were in the College World Series in Omaha 4 years ago, but they've now put together 4 consecutive 20-loss seasons since. Arkansas announced in April it was dropping men's and women's tennis, financial reasons. We know a couple of years ago, Iowa dropped 4 sports. There are going to be fewer and fewer scholarships in other sports as time goes. Can't afford it. Meanwhile, they're projecting to spend about $30 million on their football roster this season. Now, the internal number is going to be the same as everybody else, 15 to 16 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. You get the 30 million in your fundraising number, your collective number, your fundraising number, whatever it happens to be. That's how you get the 30. That's why I keep telling everybody about when it comes to men's basketball at Penn State. And Penn State internally spends the same as everybody else. $3 million, right around there. Michigan State might spend $5 million internally. But why does Michigan have a $12.5 to $13 million roster and Penn State has like a $4 million roster? That's because of the external stuff. And Penn State's increased it in basketball this year, but that's where the difference comes in. It's that external number that's added on. Now, at Notre Dame, to get to $30 million, to make up for the additional, let's just say, $14 million, well, if you're donating to baseball, if you're donating to what other sports are getting nailed here. We got 17 of them. Not really sure of all the sports they have. They don't have wrestling, I know that. So baseball, softball, cross country, whatever it may be. They're not going to fundraise for them. They want all that money that you're bringing in on fundraising. They want to go and shift it over to football. You're not going to get the money. It's going to be shifted over to football, which you can do. And this is a big concern moving forward for a lot of programs across the country. Big concern. And you're talking about 17 programs either having their budgets frozen or cut. And part of the cuts also involve scholarships. Now, remember when I was going through the numbers for you a year ago? They're going to increase they're talking about the $20.5 million. I kept saying it's not really $20.5 million. It's probably about $27 million. Well, why 27? Because of the increase in scholarships. I mean, I went through each sport, the numbers you're allowed to have now. For example, I think in men's and women's, in men's lacrosse, you can have, now up to 47 scholarships. Now, doesn't mean you're going to have 47 scholarships, but that's now the new limit. Baseball went from 11.4 up to, 33, 34. Wrestling went from 9.9, to 32, 31. The Kale doesn't do that. I think Kale's between 18 and 22, maybe, something like that. But again, when you bring scholarships, you have to pay for it. There is a financial exchange that happens between the athletic department and the university. It's not one of those like they're there and they're just going for free and we don't worry about the money. No, you have to go in and go, okay. So he or she is out of state. Boom, that number, hit the button. He or she is in state. Boom, hit that number. Turns out we lucked out. He or she happens to have a parent that works at Penn State. That's that number. But it's whatever the corresponding number happens to be. You have to pay for it. That's millions more. So if you're talking about cutting baseball scholarships down to 10.2 in future years, that's part of your way of saving money. Every sport outside of the primary 9 are getting their budgets frozen or reduced at Notre Dame, where they cut down in scholarships as part of the equation. Doesn't mean you can't have walk-ons. You can. But that costs money, too. I mean, in a roundabout way, it doesn't cost you on the tuition part of it. You still have to feed them, put them through training, everything like that goes with it. And this is... Again, Notre Dame's TV deal with NBC is good. It's not awesome and incredible, but it's really, really good. Their agreement with the ACC is whatever. But see, like all these programs, when you're in the ACC, now it means you may have to go to California, Stanford Cal, or as far south as Miami, or Atlanta, Virginia, the Carolinas, or as far east is Boston. Just a nil. It costs money to do this. To fly them all over the place. You're not going to bus to California. You're not busing to Miami or Florida State or even Atlanta. You have to fly these programs when they go on the road. I mean, for Notre Dame, I'm not advocating anything here, but say they're in the Big Ten, man, where they're located, they could save so much money. It'd be ridiculous. You bus to Illinois, you bus to Indiana, you bus to Northwestern, you bus to Michigan, you bus to Michigan State, you bus to Indiana, you bus to Wisconsin. You'd end up busing to Ohio State. I mean, just on the pure travel. You'd be saving money left and right because of the location. But they're in but their other sports are in the ACC except for football, and you aren't busing anywhere there except maybe Louisville. That's about it. Everywhere else, all these other programs that they have that are affiliated with the ACC, they've got to fly. And that's a big part of all this. Big part of it. And we're hitting, as time goes, we're getting closer to a line in college sports where there's not enough money to sustain everything. And there's such a drive to win in football. There is such a drive to win in basketball. Because those are the two money sports. I mean, those are the two sports that TV contracts revolve around. Right. I know the SEC network can put on gymnastics and BTN can put on softball and baseball and wrestling and things like that. But they're not paying for that. They don't pay for that. Contract with Fox is for football and men's basketball. Okay? There's nothing in there about other sports. NBC is playing for football and men's basketball. That includes Peacock. CBS is playing for football and men's basketball. That's what they're paying for. ESPN is paying the SEC for football and men's basketball. If it turns out that, and of course, they're adding other sports in there. Women's basketball tournament, things like that. I'm talking about the conference women's basketball tournament. Because the NCAA tournament is separate. But that's what you're paying for. So these other sports are not realizing any kind of windfall from TV other than the exposure of being on TV. The exposure is really important too, but they're not getting any kind of like, hey, you make an appearance on TV. That's not how it works. Not how it works. So Notre Dame is on the ACC network. Not great. Production's really good. I mean, my buddy Wes Durham, of course, is the lead guy on ACC network. But this is, it's hard to keep all these sports going. And it's trouble. We're going to get into more of this later in the show. Next half hour, I do want to get into the NFL schedule release. I mean, the 49ers. You have to travel 38,105 miles.
an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
And great to have you with us on the show today. Brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV. They'll make sure you're fully insured. They'll do everything they can to save you money. Because customer service means everything to them at Purdy Insurance. Don't forget about the Purdy Memorial Golf Tournament, the 35th annual tournament taking place at the Susquehanna Valley Country Club Wednesday, August 5th. Get your team together now. It'll benefit the Greater Susquehanna Valley YMCA and will take place at the Susquehanna Valley Country Club. And we'll be out there for that. Again, giving back to the community. Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Before I get to the winners and losers on the NFL schedule, one other point. Because of conference expansion, it has brought with it increased costs. Suddenly, for example, Penn State is playing games at Washington, Oregon, Los Angeles. That brought up Notre Dame. Suddenly they're playing games in... And it's not football and basketball I'm talking about here. I'm talking about everybody else. Right? Everybody else. Suddenly you're playing games, Notre Dame and Palo Alto, Berkeley. You go with your trips already to Miami and Boston and so forth. And that's what conference expansion has done. Conferences used to be regionalized. Now, for example, the Big 12, you could be playing a game in Tucson and suddenly you're playing a game in Orlando or Cincinnati or Salt Lake City or Texas or Morgantown, West Virginia. In the Big 10, there are 18 schools. Again, do not teach your children using sports. There are 18 schools in the Big 10. And the Dallas Cowboys are in the NFC East. The Big Ten has 18 schools. And I have long advocated this, and I know the coaches do not want this. They have been adamant they would not be in favor of what I'm about to say. But I would take the Big Ten outside of football, men's and women's basketball, volleyball, probably men's and women's soccer. Wrestling's not an issue. And I would regionalize the other sports. I would regionalize it in 3 regions. 6 schools in one region, 6 in the central region, and 6 in the west. Where no matter what, you're playing the other 5 schools in your region. And then you have a crossover with the central region and a crossover with the western region, because you still want to have at least some semblance and feeling that there's a conference. Penn State, Rutgers, Maryland, Ohio State, Michigan State, regionally all playing baseball against each other. Indiana, Purdue, with Western, Illinois. Okay. Wisconsin, Minnesota in the central. And then, I know Iowa and Minnesota are close to each other. I got that. But Iowa, you have to have somebody go west. Iowa, Nebraska, along with Washington, Oregon, USC, UCLA. And that would regionalize your travel at least. You know, you'd still have crossovers with a central team. You'd still have crossovers with a western team and rotate them through the years. You've got to do something. You can't keep holding on to the Shangri-La fantasy of like we're all, you know, every program's a Big Ten program, and like you can't. I mean, you have to get yourself into survival mode here. Now, not every sport this applies to. For example, not everybody in the Big Ten plays men's lacrosse. You don't have to do it with men's lacrosse. You don't have to do it with men's ice hockey. You don't have to do that. There's only 7 schools, you know, with Notre Dame being added in, 7 schools that play it. I think there's 6 or 7 that play. There's 7 that play men's lacrosse because Johns Hopkins is in. And women's lacrosse has maybe more crossover to it. You know, men's volleyball is not affiliated with the Big Ten. There aren't that many schools that have gymnastics, men's gymnastics anymore. But there's some there's some sports, baseball, softball, for example, where I think you've got to regionalize what you're doing here. You know, talk about it maybe with men's and women's soccer. I'm not so sure that. And I think you've got to keep that national. But I think you need to regionalize. You have 18 schools. You can divide it up into 3 6-school regions. I mean, if you want to divide it in half and do it in 9, fine. But there has to be, at some point, there has to be a survival mode for schools that are incapable in sports that are incapable on the college side of generating a profit. Sports that on the financial side have no chance of breaking even. Because I don't want to use the term revenue producing. They all produce revenue. Hey, let's go to I'm out at Oregon in February. Penn State's going to play basketball out there. Well, it turned out their baseball opener, I think, was with George Mason, I think. And so I was out for a walk. Yeah, and I'm talking like I want to take a good long walk. So I decided I'd go from the hotel and I'd walk over to the football stadium. I'd never seen it before. So, you know, you go through the park. You get on the Steve Prefontaine Trail. Yeah. And eventually you get to the stadium. Well, right next to the stadium is the baseball park. Really beautiful park, by the way. I thought, let's go over and let's check out the baseball game. Yeah, it was like $7, $8. Okay, fine. So just by getting the $7 or $8 out of me, they generated revenue. That's why you cannot refer to these as revenue-producing sports. They generate revenue. So we're not going to play the semantics game here. It's can you break even and earn a little extra coin? None of these sports can do that. In the Big Ten, the only sport outside of a football and men's basketball program this past fiscal year that actually was in the black was Minnesota men's ice hockey. Now, whether they did that again this year or not, I don't know because they didn't have a good year this year. But they're the only program that turned a profit outside of a football or men's basketball program in the Big Ten. It's just how I have looked at again, we're at a point, there's so much money that is needed to make your football program competitive. There's so much money that is needed to make your men's basketball program competitive. And there are people that, look, and they want to put their money into women's basketball. They want to put their money into wrestling. That's great. That's your choice. It's your money. But in terms of like where you need the money, I mean, those are the two programs, football, men's basketball, that can generate something that puts you in the black, and especially in football. Especially in football. And that puts other sports on the cut line. And part of being on the cut line is how much money it costs to travel your teams. You regionalize it, you can bus to Columbus, you can bus to Rutgers, you can bus to Maryland. Right? You can debate back and forth about whether you want to. I mean, that's a long bus trip. It's like 6 to 7 hours to get to Ann Arbor. And that's a lot. You can debate that part. But maybe it's time to regionalize it. And I know if you propose this at a coaches meeting, it's going to be shot down right away. I do know that. But if you put them in the survival mode and tell them, it's like, look, you guys want to keep going with this? You better start thinking this way. Now, whether they do or not, whether they believe me, I don't know. Do not know. All right, travel. Let's see here. 49ers, 38,105 miles. That's 3,258 more miles than the second-place Rams, 9,635 more miles than the third-place Houston Texans. Meanwhile, it's also more miles than the Chicago Bears, Cleveland Browns, and Carolina Panthers are traveling combined. The 49ers traveled 20,000 more miles than each of the 14 other teams will. Now, it is inflated because of the Melbourne trip, where they're the host, they're playing host to the Rams. That's a 15,738-mile trip. That trip alone is longer than 11 teams' total travel this season. It doesn't help the cause that their fourth longest trip of the year is also another home game in Mexico City. They got to go 3,854 miles for that. Patriots, Chargers, and Dolphins are the only three teams ranked in both the top 10 of projected travel miles and strength of schedule. Now, that's from the winning percentage of the teams in 2025. Patriots, 27,590. Sixth toughest schedule at .531. They open, of course, with Seattle. And in the continental U.S., Boston to Seattle is... that's you're talking about, like, in terms of east to west, I think Miami to Seattle is longer, but, like, holy mackerel. The Chargers, seventh most miles, 24,816, ninth toughest schedule, 522. Dolphins, sixth most miles, 27,568, second toughest schedule at 542. Chiefs, Jags, and Browns are the only teams that are going to have three-game road trips. Kansas City will visit the Bills, the Rams, and Bengals in weeks 12, 13, and 14. So they got to go to Buffalo, they got to go to Los Angeles, they got to go to Cincinnati. The Jags go to Baltimore, then they go to Tennessee, and then finally up to MetLife to take on the Giants weeks 9, 10, 11. They also close the season with 4 of 6 games on the road. Remember, they also have 2 games that they're playing in England that are home games. The Browns have a 3-game road trip where they got to go to Nashville, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, week 7, 8, 9. They also open with 2 consecutive road games, and they close the season with 3 out of 4 on the road. Yeah. Ay. Not easy. Meanwhile, Carolina only has to go 8,700 miles this year. The Rams have a league-high 7 games in prime time. No offense, sort of understandable. The Seahawks, Bills, Chiefs, Cowboys, and Packers have 6 primetime games. The Eagles, Patriots, Bears, and 49ers have 5. Who would be on the list where America does not want to see? Well, there are no primetime games for the Jets, the Dolphins, the Titans, the Raiders, and the Arizona Cardinals. Meanwhile, the Saints and the Browns each have 1 primetime game. There's also the Philadelphia one. Philadelphia plays hardly any games on Sunday at 1 o'clock, and they are all over the place. You want them to play on Thanksgiving? The Eagles are on Thanksgiving. You want the Eagles on Christmas? They're playing on Christmas. You want them on a Sunday night game, a Monday night game? They're playing that stuff too. They got a lot of 4:35 games. I mean, it's crazy. Seattle, New England launches the season on a Wednesday night. Rams 49ers on Netflix on a Thursday night. Cowboys and Giants are the Sunday night game. Chiefs and Broncos are the Monday night game. So right out of the gate, they've got matchups. The schedule release. But I tell you, the Eagles schedule, you look at the Eagles schedule, hey, it's all over the place. Okay, so let's see. Let's go. Nobody cares about the preseason. So they open with the Commanders, 4:25. Then they got a 1 o'clock game. Then they got an 8:15 game. Okay, the Monday night game. Then they got a 1 o'clock game. Then they got a 9:30 in the morning game with the Jags because they get to overseas. Okay, then they got a 1 o'clock game. Then they got a game with the Cowboys at 8:15. Commanders game 8:20. Okay, finally play the Giants at 1. Then they got the game with the Steelers 4:25. Then they got the Cowboys on Thanksgiving at 4:30. And they've got a game December 6th with the Cardinals 4:05. Finally a 1 o'clock game at home with the Colts. Seattle, 5 o'clock in the afternoon on the 19th on a Saturday. Then they play on Christmas Eve at 8:15. Then they come back and play at 8:20. And then they got TBD with the Giants. Hey, look, and when you're in a position like the Eagles where you've got Saquon Barkley and you have Jalen Hurts, you are a team that people want to see. The Eagles are in the category, I think they're, if you're trying to pick 5 teams in the NFL that are must-see TV, the Eagles are one of those 5 teams. Based on the dynamic personalities, Hurts, Barkley, Devontae Smith, right? Jalen Carter, people like that. Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. I mean, they're dynamic. People want to see them play, and there's again, you're under the category of there's a lot of people who want to see you play to win, and there's also the category of fans that want to see you crash and burn. What do they both have in common? They want to watch you play. The Eagles are one of those 5 teams. So, Third time they've ever had an international game when they play the Jags. That'll be in Tottenham, by the way. They'll play on Thanksgiving for the 8th time in franchise history. First time they've done it since 2015. And by the way, the Eagles have been traditionally really good on Thanksgiving. The previous 7, they're 6-1. They have 5 scheduled primetime games for the 5th straight year. And through flex scheduling, could get a 6th. The Eagles have had the 3rd most primetime games in the NFL since 2000, 114. Second straight year, they've had 2 Monday night games. And the Eagles have actually, since 2000, played more Monday night games than any other franchise, 44. Right? I mean, again, remember I said yesterday, stop feeling like your little brother? You're the better franchise. Don't let Dallas get to you. They haven't done anything in decades.